Hi, and welcome to Quadcast. I'm Lewis, and today I'm joined by John for the second part in our series on the history and the future of AlphaQuad. John, it's lovely to have you back. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me again.
So, I just wanted to get straight into this today. How is AlphaQuad's approach different to other agencies?
Right, that's an interesting question. Because at one level, we're not that different to other agencies at all. We're all doing basically the same thing. We're all motivated about the same things. We all care about our clients and we care about the job we're doing. We want to be seen to be doing a good job. I think the difference with AlphaQuad is that in certain elements of what I've just described, we're probably more so than other people. An agency tends to reflect quite often the person that sets it up or the person that runs it. I like to make sure that I please people and they get what they want. And in a business context, they get what they pay for. Now, that really is quite important to me. I know it's the sort of thing you're going to say on a podcast like this, but it's part of my personality. I need to help people do things. I need to please people. And that's been a very effective thing. Sometimes it's not a good thing in life. It can cause you problems.
Yeah.
But when it translates into a business, that can be really effective, because something that seems to have been communicated down over the years is that my colleagues also want to please their clients, and they see that as part of the ethos of who we are and what we do. So it's really important to us. It's more important than the money people pay us.
Yeah.
And again, it sounds odd to say something like that, and people might listen to it and think, yeah, really. But it genuinely is. We, as a lot of the clients who have budget issues, their businesses might not be as successful as they would want them to be, will tell you they know we are still there for them. We'll still do things for them because we want them to be pleased with what we've done. And that has paid off big time over the years. When you help people, and you don't need to help people.
Yeah.
You help people and they haven't got the budget, they haven't got any budget at all. You're just doing a favour for them. People, by and large, remember that. And down the line, they remember you did a good job. You weren't focused on the money or just screwing whatever budget you can out of them. You genuinely wanted to help them. It does come back to you. That concept of pay it forwards has been very effective. And so, this podcast aside, our marketing pretty much has been that network of goodwill that we've built up over the years. And so, generally, we don't do a great deal of marketing ourselves. The phone rings because people remember what we did for them.
Which I think has been a really interesting way of doing things. So any company that I've worked in previously where I've helped with the marketing or I've been in charge of it it's always been, there's been constant outreach, and it's been that constant struggle of how do we make sure that we're getting our name out there. And I think something that we were really interested in with starting this Quadcast was just for it to be another avenue to make sure that people can get our names out there. We're on a streaming service now, which is kind of completely different to what we had been just purely on Google and search engines. So outreach, I think, is always going to be an integral aspect of it. Mm-hmm. But also at the same time, I think it's lovely that we can have that, the goodwill that you've been able to foster in the last 3 decades of really good work that has allowed people to continue to really look at us and go, yeah, I'm going to go to them. I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to speak to them.
I mean, boil that down. I think the most effective form of marketing we have ever done is the work we currently do with our clients and the work we have done with our clients. And if you can't get that right, well, no amount of marketing is ever going to compensate.
Yeah, the work needs to be good. The bare minimum needs to be good.
Yes.
And it's a very base level thing to say, but it is true. And I just want to pick up from that, actually. So positive relationships are a huge part of AlphaQuad's ethos. So how do you find that you've been able to keep clients happy and engaged over the years?
I mean, we touched on this in the previous podcast. For me, and whether this is right or not, I like to see our clients not as some sort of business entity, but as individual people we're working for. So a marketing manager will work with a particular client is a person with their own motivation, their skills, their personality. We're not working with this amorphous concept of a company behind the scenes. We're working with a person.
Yeah.
Now that's what we try and get right to start with, because effectively that company, in its all in its strange amorphous entity of what it is has put this person in front of us. We're working with a particular person, and that relationship is at the core of whatever we do. And so not only are we realizing that we have got to do a really good job for the company, we've got to make sure that people find out about them in a positive light, people come there, people spend money with them. We also need to know that the person we're working with have got their own motivations as well, and they want to do well. They want to ascend the career ladder.
Yeah.
So when we're doing something really good for a client, we're doing it good. We're doing something good for the person we're working with, and they're going to look good as a result of it. Now, how does that crystallize out? That's a general comment. Well, we're very used to doing board reports for our clients, people we're working with, and they then hand them into the board or whoever they're reporting to as their piece of work. And it is their piece of work because we're just putting a structure on it. We're helping them. We're working in partnership with this individual to do that. But we're really happy if they take the credit for it. And it happens all the time. And it's a great thing. Quite often, the person we're working with is the person that chose us. And so the very fact they chose us effectively means that they are in charge of that. They made a decision to bring in an agency that works the way we do. And so we're quite happy to do that. So really, it's the people we work with rather than the company.
Yeah, which I find to be a really interesting answer because there's always going to be this fine line of being able to toe the balance between ensuring that you meet everything that the client wants and everything that you want to make sure that you're feeling fulfilled in and of yourself, because they might want something that you might not necessarily agree with particularly. So what I'd like to ask you is, how have you been able to manage exactly that? How have you been able to manage the balance between client needs and creative liberty?
Okay, yeah, that's important, because fundamental rule is we are being paid to do a job by someone. They determine whether it's good or not.
Yeah.
Our role within that, so having said that, okay, they're in charge, they're paying money, so we do what they say, is that we educate. And again, in the last podcast, you know that I said I was a teacher for 16 years, and that's followed me through. And so when I sit down with a client, or when any of my colleagues sit down with a client, our key role to start with is one of education. So we know typically a lot more than our clients do about digital marketing. Unless we can bring them up to a certain level of understanding, a lot of what we do will not make any sense. Now, to answer your question, it really isn't a problem once you do the education part. Once you explain why you're doing something and the reasons behind it, you tend not to have many disagreements with clients. They understand why we're doing a particular thing, and they're quite happy for us to then go on and do that. There are odd occasions where you might use the word creativity. That is where I think we can depart a little bit, because people tend to have their own idea of what works, what looks good, and what doesn't look good. Now, and it's not the sort of thing you're going to educate out of someone. So in that scenario, if we disagree, what we tend to do is we will rely on statistics if we possibly can. So, for example, if we're looking at how a website appears on different platforms, different screen sizes, and the client comes to us and says, right, I really don't think it looks that good on a mobile screen. The desktop's fine, but it's not really that good on the mobile screen. And we've had to make compromises, which you always have to do in design. What we can then do is go to the client and say, well, you do realise that 95% of your visitors are on a desktop, not on a mobile. And so we can sort of steer them with a little bit of evidence beyond that. But when it comes to it, and we could also say, well, I'll tell you what, let's do two versions and see which one's most effective. Let's do an A/B test and see what sort of conversion results we get on that. So we can resolve it that way. But when it comes down to it, the client decides. So what we're doing is we are putting together something in, whether it's SEO, whether it's design work, whether it's tech work, we're putting together something for the client to approve.
Yeah.
They approve it, and that's it. And there comes a point at which you say, no, okay, fine, you decide. We've explained what we think, but it's your choice. We advise only.
Yeah, exactly. The bottom line is always going to be that the client's decision is effectively final. But I just found it to be an interesting question that I thought was worth asking, because at what point does it become, this is the wrong word, but tedious to just follow to a brief? And at what point do you kind of imbue some kind of sense of self into it, just so that you can say, like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, John was here in that, regardless of some kind of banner at the bottom that just says hosted by AlphaQuad.
We like to put our name on things because we're proud of what we do. I mean, it used to be advantageous to put your name on and name and link on the bottom of every page because that gave you a search engine boost. It doesn't any longer, and it's not important. But we like to say we have created this. We're proud of this. And when we engage with new clients or we're looking for new clients, we'll quite happily show them any of the work we've done. Even the work where the client has taken over and started developing the website themselves, which is always a bit of a risk if you want to show someone else.
Yeah.
But even with that, because we know we're happy with what we've done, and it's good, it's effective, and any of our work we're quite happy to put up there as a reference point for people to look at.
Yeah. John, I think that something that you and I have had many conversations about in the past are emerging trends within digital marketing. And that has taken on many forms. It's taken on many different platforms. And I'm wondering for you, what the kind of the future looks like, and how is AlphaQuad focused on keeping current with these emerging trends?
Right, and that's a really, really big question.
Yeah, it's loaded.
Absolutely. It's one that is very, very difficult to answer. It's a brave person who predicts the future.
Yep.
And in digital marketing and in everything at the moment, it's a very brave person who predicts anything at all. The big trend, the big emergent thing that's hitting not just digital marketing, our entire society, is artificial intelligence. Lots of people are talking about it. It's even on Radio 4 nowadays, and they're discussing it in a very earnest manner. When the major proponents and the major companies that are working in the sector are really concerned about the implications, and people who are right at the heart of it are talking about existential threats to humanity, you've got to start taking it seriously.
Yeah.
I don't want to build this out of proportion here now, but I've seen people comparing it to the threat, the opportunity, the two things together of being as significant as the nuclear age and in other ways the Industrial Revolution and the like. I just know that what we're seeing of it is a trend, it is a movement that's happening that we can't ignore. We have to engage with it for very pragmatic reasons.
Yeah.
Take an example. The first thing we engage with, as you know, is copywriting. We discovered very early on that with ChatGPT 3.5, its ability to produce content was scarily good.
Yeah.
Even more scarily good when you learned how to use the tool. I mean, as it's gone through to its latest, at time of recording, incarnation of 4.0, that can produce content and that can discuss things with you at a level which has astounded us. We deployed a chatbot as an experiment a while back, and we trained it up on our own content, stuff that we'd written in the past, things from behind the scenes, and encourage it to go and look at other information out there on the web. We have now got a chatbot that can answer digital marketing questions with close to the same level of expertise and assurance that we can do ourselves. And I encourage anyone who's listening to this to go onto our chatbot, ask it some hard questions. We've, what they call red teamed it. We've attempted to kick it off track, try to get it to answer in ways that would be inappropriate, which are incorrect. We haven't broken it yet. I mean, it really is solid.
It's really good. Do you remember I believe it was DPD, or their chatbot went haywire, and it was just talking nothing but nonsense about how rubbish DPD is, which is not what you want. And thankfully, ours is pretty rock solid.
Unlike the Google AI in its search results, we have not recommended that people start eating rocks as yet.
No.
Which is an unfair comment to Google. That was an easy mistake to make. The problem with Google was it was unable to differentiate between a satirical article and actual facts.
Yes.
Which, given the amount of satire out there, might be a problem.
Exactly. But that'll be something that I think AI will be able to toe the line between eventually, is the difference in tone. Because I think that something that I've struggled with copywriting is the establishment of that tone, unless you specifically say to it, I am writing to this tone, please do it exactly as such. And even then, sometimes it misses out the kind of, the nuances of kind of human speech and human emotion in that regard. But that's where you, as a human, come back in and alter it.
And it's important to get specific about this,
Yes.
because I've seen lots and lots of comments, especially in the main media, which are very superficial about AI. I mean, a journo sat down there, he's banged a few questions into ChatGPT and criticised what's come out as a result of it, and said why he is better or why she is better than the artificial intelligence system. When we used ChatGPT, it became very obvious very early on that there was a good way and a bad way of using it. The bad way is to say, write me an article about desks and chairs.
Yeah.
The way we form it up is you will start conversationally with a chatbot. You will explain to it the context of what you're trying to do. It's got a vast ability, a vast capacity, to be able to look at the information you're giving it and to respond accordingly within the context of that information. So we'll explain who we are, what we're doing. We're a marketing agency. We're producing an article for a client. We explain who the client is.
Yeah.
We will expose the chatbot ideally to the client's website, provided that website is good enough for this type of exercise. We will then ask it to suggest how we would break down an article about a particular topic. And we've always start with, we're still trying to promote for a keyword or a set of keyword phrases. So within that keyword or that set of keyword phrases, we will ask GPT to actually have a look at, okay, what should the structure be? We'll then look at the structure.
Yep.
We will tweak it. We'll change it. We'll think, no, that's not relevant. And, we need a little bit more. And we will have that dialogue with ChatGPT. We will say to it, okay, we don't like that particular title because, or this section down here, we think you should expand on that one. When we are then happy with that, we will then go iteratively through the document. We will ask it to expand on a particular topic area, and we'll start to form up the article that way. But not only that, the really, really important element is we blend that with comments from the client.
Yeah.
Now, provided the client has got the capacity, and that's the challenge, because our clients are busy people, they're doing other things, but if we can get from them at least a list of bullet points of things that they know are important, because we are trying to engage with Google as a search engine on its key set of factors that it looks at of expertise, authoritativeness and trustworthiness. The first of those expertise is something we're trying to get from our clients to say, right, you tell us what you have learned over the last 1, 2, 10, 20 years of being in business. Give us something that's unique and different. And then we'll also feed that into ChatGPT. And so we are taking it beyond just the conjurings of an artificial intelligence into something that also comes from the real world. And so we're trying to build something up that way. Now, by using that approach, and at every stage using you, me, one of our other colleagues to look through it to see, does it make sense? We're getting something that is unique and is produced in a fraction of the time that we could do this through any other method. To do what I've just described through traditional copywriting is typically beyond the budget of most clients to produce the amount of work that we need produced.
Yeah.
And so we're using it in a particular way, a particular tool. And as things develop, we're looking at how it's working and how else can we work it through? What else can we do? I spend so much time learning about AI systems, it's untrue.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it's really, really interesting. And then there's the design side of things. And our favourite tool for that is Midjourney. Midjourney is a wonderful tool. It will produce all manner of things. But again, you've got to learn how to put that prompt in to start with. And you've got to go through quite a few iterations of an image until you get it where you want.
Yeah.
I mean, long gone are the days when you had some horrendous deformities coming out, which were really quite unpleasant to look at. They're looking really good now, almost too good. And when you're entering a situation where people are using that tool to create AI models who are being used in advertising campaigns, you know things are working particularly well. The challenge with design side of things is that you tend to get what the AI wants to give you. You don't have that level of control that you would have if you were creating that image yourself, either through photography or through actually producing it in Photoshop or the like. And so it's still quite led by the AI, but then how do you describe an image,
Yeah, that's been, I found that something, when I was learning how to use Midjourney initially, I would kind of get ChatGPT to describe an image for me, to just get some kind of base understanding of, give it to me in really extreme detail, go down to if there's a person in it, what kind of clothes are they wearing? What does the texture look like? What does the fabric look like? What color is their hair? What length is it? Just the specific inch, if you can give me it. And it worked really surprisingly well. And I think that what I found with Midjourney before kind of the alpha version of it that is now available was it liked as much detail as you could possibly give it. Mm-hmm. And now I think it still likes as much detail as you can give it, but it's less kind of anal about it. It's more, give me detail, give me a lot of it, but don't overload it, because you never know what it might come out with them. And I find that the longer the prompt now, the messier the image.
Yeah, I'm finding that. I'm also finding it's truncating.
Yeah.
The stuff in the prompt, it's ignoring. Now, it's probably not truncating, it's probably weighting. And so it's actually putting a greater weight on one element of it than another. But it's certainly not a fast process.
No.
To get a decent image, you've really got to work at it.
Yeah.
If you want to do a prog rock album cover, not a problem. I've produced some amazing things that would have gone really well on some sort of the old-fashioned LP album covers.
Yeah.
But when you actually want to have a specific image of a specific thing, you can't really set it up like a photographer would set it up.
But these things, it's a learning process. It's not, there's no overnight way of quickly learning how to use ChatGPT or Midjourney or DALL-E or whatever it might be. There's no quick fix to learning how to do it. It is a process. So moving away slightly from kind of emerging trends in AI now, how have you found that cultivating creativity and innovation has been an important aspect at AlphaQuad?
The culture, the basic culture of a company. We are very proud here of the fact we run a no-blame culture.
Yeah.
And that, why do I immediately go for a negative and talking about blame? Because in any environment where there's a group of people are concerned about what other people think about them. People are reluctant to come out with an idea in case they're going to be criticised for it. And if we can get a culture where someone can make some really quite serious cock-ups and then know that they're not going to be hauled over the coals, the worst they're going to get is a slightly raised eyebrow, and you might want to avoid doing that again. People should feel more open to try things, to do things, like setting up new podcasts and seeing how it goes. It's quite good that I, over the years, have made some pretty horrendous blunders. And so I know full well, if I'm doing it, and for me, I was really motivated to get it right, especially as I'm the one in the early days, it was just me. I had to fix it if it went wrong.
Yeah.
If you know you've made mistakes yourself, then you know how to handle that situation. And I love the simple adage of no one ever learns anything by getting it right. And so it's important. Having said that, I think it's incumbent on those of us who have been around the block a few times to find a way of offering advice in a way that minimises the chance of making any errors. I'll give you an example of something. Let's make it concrete, rather than just say I've made some mistakes. So I'm working with a very large client, and they're very interested in email marketing. And so I didn't know a great deal about email marketing at the time. And I did some research, and I found a particular product, which shall be nameless, but it was a piece of software that we could buy, which would do everything that we required for this particular client. So off I went, and I talked to sales guys. They were very positive. They thought it was going to be perfect for us. Well, yeah, of course they would. We went ahead and we told the client how much it was going to cost. It was £15,000 for this piece of software, so it wasn't insignificant. But they had a large budget, so we bought the software. And we were going to launch this Christmas campaign, and we'd got approval of the actual email, the message, the tone was perfect. We got our mailing list sorted, and all that's kosher. That was a proper opt-in mailing list going off to hundreds of thousands of their customers. So everything sorted, ready to go. I'm feeling very proud of myself. Pressed the button, and off they went. 1, 2, 3. grindingly slowly, they started to go. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this didn't happen in the tests, but we'll let it go. And we kept going, and we got up to about, I don't know, 5,000 in a day and a half, 2 days. And so we're in a situation thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? And I rang up the software company and we chatted about it, and we realised that the spec they'd given us for the server that we needed wasn't accurate. And for the size of list, they didn't anticipate quite so many people that I was sending it to. And so the size of list was just too big for what we were doing. So we had then a server which was grinding through this stuff. We were never going to get the whole lot sent before we needed the whole lot sent. So what do you do? How do you fix that? And, with hindsight, I should have done some proper tests on it and some better tests. But, how do you know? So in the end, we found a different online system where they had their servers sorted out properly. So stopped that send and then did a complete resend on an online system, which went perfectly, no problem whatsoever. We had, at that time, about 7,500 people who got 2 copies of the email message, but we took the damage on that one. And off it went. And then we had this wonderful situation of a £15,000 piece of software, which was completely useless to us, with an online version, which was so much better, which we used from then on. And so then, for the next 5 years, AlphaQuad had to fund every email marketing send that went out from this client because, that was our fault.
Oh, no.
So that was a mistake. That cost us a little bit of money.
Yeah. But it's as you say, you don't learn anything from succeeding on the first try.
That's right.
You have to innovate, and you have to make sure that you can keep going in order to ensure that you get it right the next time and each subsequent time. So that, I suppose, does bring me quite very nicely segue into the next question here. How do you approach risks?
Well, you have to take risks.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that I moved from my career as a teacher to set up a business was a monstrous risk. And we sold everything we owned to be able to start up a company. Yeah. And so we started at the age of 40 with no money. That was a big risk. It's more difficult when you take risks on behalf of other people. When we take risks as AlphaQuad, or I take risks, then it's down to you. It's if it goes wrong, it's your problem. But taking a risk for a client is a much harder thing. We like to be as sure as we possibly can be. Fortunately, over the years, we've tried and tested so many different things, and there's not that much new under the sun apart from AI. But again, there's things in that which are fairly common to what we were doing before. So we rely on our experience of knowing what will work and what won't work. We rely on analytics, and so we're not producing books or brochures here, we're producing websites. If something clearly isn't working, or a marketing campaign clearly isn't working in its first period that we're going to be measuring it for, then we will reverse. And built into a lot of our campaigns is the option to try something completely different. And so we're mitigating risk wherever we possibly can, and we like to be completely honest with clients about whether something's going to work or not. Quite often, sitting across the other side of this table that we're sitting at now, a client will say to me, look, can you tell me this is going to work? Because I'm putting quite a lot of money into it. And I would never say to someone, it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
It simply isn't. We will say, when we have tried it before, it worked really well. We will make sure that after the first week of running with this, we're going to look and see how it's performing. And if it's not performing, we're going to change direction, and we're going to be ready for that. But beyond that, there's not a great deal we can do.
I find that really fascinating that there's no... I suppose with any company, with any industry, there's always going to be risks that are posed, and it's how you build on the risks and how you can make a success of those, not failures, but of those uncertainties that I suppose define you in a way, which is how can you deal with these things that might possibly go horribly wrong.
I'd like to turn this around, talking about defining us, because more often there's 2 scenarios on this. The first one is where we're engaging in something which the partnership between us and the client feels is risky.
Yeah.
Or one where the client has an idea where the partnership between us and the client feels is risky. It's much more common for the client to come up with risky ideas and for us to say, right, what's going to happen here is, if you do that, we have found that, and we use our experience to mitigate the risks the client is prepared to take, was considering taking. And I think we've stopped some fairly potentially disastrous things that clients were planning to do over the years. And so in terms of what's our attitude to risk, well, we can mitigate the risk of ideas that the client might have based on our experience. So overall, we're fairly conservative, and we're conservative based on experience, is that we know certain things just ain't going to work.
Which I suppose at this point, you've been doing it long enough to know that actually this doesn't work, so I'm not even going to attempt to try and suggest it, because why would I bother? Why would you waste your time? And if you've got that expertise, I suppose in a way it's how can you be the living embodiment of EEAT, which is just how can I imbue all of this and how can I make sure that people are aware of my expertise and my authority in this subject, and that they can put their trust in me to be able to do a good job with their money and put their trust in my hands.
I need to inject something, because if anyone who knows digital marketing is wondering why you're saying EEAT and I'm saying EAT, is because I always felt that experience and expertise were two things that were effectively synonymous in the application. Yeah. So if anyone knows what they're talking about and thinking, John doesn't know what he's talking about, he's missed an E out, it's very deliberate.
It's very deliberate. He knows what he's talking about so much that he actually questions Google's stance on it.
We used to have an expression way back when Google had a spokesman called Matt Cutts. I felt that Google were doing their very best to manipulate the SEO professionals out there by saying one particular thing because, and more power to them, they were trying to influence the SEO service offering around the world into something which was fit for purpose, would help them, but also honest and ethical. And I think quite often Google would come out with things that eventually would come true, but not for many, many years. But they were trying to nudge people in the right direction. And we were always nudged. We like to be nudged. But sometimes Matt Cutts lies. I think that was probably libelous. So Matt Cutts influences the way that people think.
Yes. Negatively influences. No,
positively pushes in the right direction. But as you say, I think it's important to think about what people are saying. And when someone is telling you, okay, you need to do it this way, well, why are they telling you that? What's in it for them? Is it appropriate? And by using that, it's a good way to try and get your head around all of the complexities and simplicities of digital marketing and search engine optimization.
Yeah, exactly. I think everybody online, there are so many, YouTube channels, podcasts, all sorts of resources online where people are just out to try and get the most viewership that they can, the most readership that they can, the most listenership, regardless of whether they're saying kind of quite inflammatory things about digital marketing or whether it's kind of strict untruths because it's just for the purpose of clickbait. But that does exist, and I think that it can be quite hard to toe the line between, okay, well, this is a genuinely valuable source of information that you can give me and I can mine something from that to make my work significantly better, or you're talking absolute nonsense and I'm going to never look at this again because it's just completely not worth my time. And both exist in a vacuum, and I think that some are more valuable than others and some are completely rubbish. So it's about seeing and trusting what you want to trust, but also making sure that it follows that similar sort of expertise that you personally feel that you have.
It's also about measuring, because again, we've talked a while about complexities and simplicities in digital marketing and SEO, and one of the complexities coming out of simplicity is that some of the things we do are really, really simple, and you use a simple SEO technique for a client and it works gangbusters. It's fantastic. It really works. You do the same thing with a client from a different sector and it fails completely. And that's where, even though there are simple techniques, the complexity comes in. They don't always work for everybody. There's so many different factors, there's so many different variables that it becomes a little bit complex.
Talking specifically about just approaches to risks, I find that kind of with copywriting, for me personally, there can be a lot of trial and error. And I think that the more that you can sort of trial something, regardless of whether you do A/B testing or whether you just kind of send copy over and see what the client likes best, there's always something valuable that you can mine from that, and there's always something interesting that can come from it, because it could be that you send something to a client and they're like, okay, well, I like this, but I like this from the second option that you gave me. And what are you able to then discern from that, and how are you able to improve your own work from it, is something that I've been really personally interested in, because I think that that's something that, as humans, we naturally just want to better ourselves. So I guess I'd quite like to ask you then, how have you been able to listen to feedback to be able to go, okay, right, no, I can acknowledge that you might not like that, even though I did, but I will adapt to make sure that you are happy?
It's really important that we always understand that it's the client's work.
Yeah.
We're working on their behalf for something. So in the case of copywriting, if an article goes across, we know it's going to be, in terms of English, in terms of the prose being used, it's going to be spot on. But sometimes we're going to miss an element that an expert would understand. It's a situation where whenever you work with a new colleague starts in a company and they want to impress and they've done some research, they sit down, they talk about it, sometimes at interviews, sometimes when they've actually come in to join the company, and they start talking about something that to them, they've got it rock solid, they know exactly what they're talking about. But when you've been doing it for quite some time, you think, well, yeah, that's right, but when you do it, the following's going to go wrong. I mean, coming back to the client side of things, is that we always have to be humble enough to know that although we're stringing together some decent words, some decent concepts in there, the client probably knows something that we don't. At least I hope they do. So with all of their experience, and then when they then feed back, it's usually, of course, the blinkers come off and we think, yeah, that makes sense now I realise. And so adapting things and changing things, absolutely. That's it's essential. We are not the people who signs off the work. The client signs off the work. And that's really important. It's their work. We've done it on their behalf. We've made it easier for them to produce something, and we've done it for them, and they own it. So if the client isn't part of the team, then things are probably going to go a little bit wrong. Or at the very least, they're going to be somewhat bland. So we like to work hand in glove with clients, and their feedback is not important, it's absolutely essential.
I found it so incredibly valuable to have that input from clients, and there to always be this kind of quite communicative process where nobody goes quiet on the other. It's just, okay, right, you like this? Okay, cool. If you don't like it, then send it back and I can rework it, and that's absolutely fine. And there's not this culture of pressure that exists where it's do it and do it now and do it the best that you could possibly do it.
There's a little spin-off from this as well that we've found over the years, is that for the clients, beyond the actual production of this marketing tool of a website or client servicing tool of a website, to the actual process of producing a website, producing a marketing campaign, encourages the client to find time to consider what they're doing and how they're doing it. And just the production of a website and what needs to go there, what's going to go on the about page, what are we about? Even the contact page, where are we? Surprisingly, the contact details that clients put out there are not always consistent. And in fact, I'd say that the norm is that they're not consistent. And so slight changes in the address or the way they describe where they are.
Yeah.
And one of the things you need to do it's not quite as important as it used to be, in local SEO was something called NAP, name, address, postcode. And you had to get that spot on perfect each time on everywhere that address is put. And whenever you get to a client, you'd be surprised how many versions you can have of someone's address. So it gives the client the opportunity to examine who they are and what they're doing and what's important and how they're talking to clients. And it's a really, really useful exercise. I think every company should do this every 5 years.
Yeah.
And for us, the benefit is it's a new website every 5 years. That's not a bad thing.
No, not at all. It keeps us fresh, it keeps us current, it keeps us interesting. So, John, this is the last AlphaQuad specific question that I was going to ask you today. I've got a couple of others to go off the bat of that. This is quite a large scale question. What are some challenges that you have found are facing digital marketing today?
Challenges today and in the past, because the challenges are the same. One of them is how to stay up to date. And so we're talking a little bit about AI today. This is an emerging field. It is happening so quickly. It's almost impossible to organise a training program. When GPT 3.5 kicked off, I found myself writing notes about how to use and the conversational approach to using ChatGPT. I finished writing it, and it took me to research and to try different things and to work. It was taking me about 3 weeks. I actually wrote it, sent it out to you guys to have a look at, and then I looked at the latest changes to ChatGPT and thought, oh no, I've got to start again. And it's and that is a bit of a problem at the moment. And this is more of a significant problem now than it's ever been in the past, because things are changing so rapidly and there's such commercial pressure on OpenAI and Google and Anthropic and everybody else who's involved in it, they're in a major race to push things forward as quickly as they possibly can. So we are, as users of these systems, effectively in the Wild West of undocumented, really powerful, really in some way unfamiliar tools that we've got to then turn around and use in a productive and positive manner. And that's a real challenge. And so it's always been like that. There's always something new coming on. And that's been the big change over the years. It was harder to do things. And then as new tools come through, it becomes easier to do things.
Yeah.
But we're now in this weird place where we're not entirely sure where things are going. And so when I say we, I mean everybody in the industry, and I think probably everybody who engages this worldwide. What comes next and how are we going to stay up? So that's the challenge. That's the really big challenge, trying to predict an uncertain and probably unstable future. And we're not just doing it for us, we're doing it on behalf of our clients. So so the implications of AI for digital marketing, fine, we're on top of that. What are the implications of AI for our clients who are producing amino acids or doing peptide synthesis or who are managing care homes or who are in the financial sector or are manufacturing or turning big rocks into small rocks? What are the implications of AI systems? Now, a lot of that isn't really our problem. That's for them to sort out. But the blend between the AI that we're using and the AI that they're using can be significant. There can be an overlap there at times. So an uncertain future is probably our biggest challenge. Yeah, that and people. Anyone listening to this now will know in their job, the biggest challenge they will be facing is people they're working with, people they're working for, or people who are working for them. Because processes, products, services are simple. People are complicated.
I think that there are a lot of challenges that are facing us today. I think that me personally, being very new to the digital marketing world, that there's a lot to learn still, and there's a lot of information to mine and to make sure that I'm aware of. But as you say, like there are a lot of challenges that even I myself have noticed that have felt new in my 12 months of being here. So it's unpredictability is the name of the game.
And good. I think I'd get bored with it otherwise.
Yeah. You don't do it for this long without enjoying it.
And when I say that it's one of the big challenges is people, that's also that's what motivates you every day. Working with people is both a challenge and a massive opportunity. It's such a wonderful thing to do. So, for example, when COVID hit and we all dispersed and we all worked from home, and working from home was really easy when it came to digital marketing, what an awful time. When all of this personal interaction you get with people, with your colleagues, with your clients, resolves to a square on a screen of a dodgy video quality because you live somewhere where you haven't got particularly good broadband, and that was your entire working life with these people you really value and like to work with. What a horrible time that was.
It was awful. During COVID I worked in a coffee shop, so I was furloughed, and then I was back in work the second that they allowed you to go back to work. So I didn't have that sort of experience, but as I mentioned in the last episode, when I was doing my master's degree entirely online, which was a far cry completely different than when I did my undergrad, which was obviously all in person. To go into that environment, it was so jarring, it was so different, and I wouldn't want to do that again.
No.
And I don't think anybody would choose to go and do that again. I think working from home isn't something that I even enjoy. I prefer to be in the office, I prefer to be around people. It's just much more preferential for me. John, I'd like to move on to a couple of fun questions now. We've had a lot of seriousness talking about the future of AI and AlphaQuad as a whole. And something that I've been told that you used to ask people in job interviews is this question, and I hope that you're ready for it. So, John, if you were a biscuit, what would you be and why?
So everything comes back to bite you at some point. I remember asking that particular question, and I'm quite embarrassed that I did ask that question. In my defence, the concept was, if you ask someone a question they're not anticipating, you'll get through to the real person. But it probably was a bit daft. And now I'm being asked it again, and I deserve it. So, what biscuit would I be? I've just come back from the Lake District on a holiday with my daughter, and there's a little place in Grasmere that sells Grasmere gingerbread. And
Nice.
if I would be a piece of Grasmere gingerbread. Why would I be that? Well, the marketing is spectacular. It's wonderful. It's a tiny little shop. They're dressed up in uniform. You have to squeeze in. It really is small. But the biscuits are wrapped in this wonderful, it looks like a type of greaseproof paper with the same lettering, the same colour that I remember when I first went to the Lake District in 1980. Early, so 1981, 1982. Nothing has changed at all. The uniforms are the same, the wrapping's the same, and the biscuits taste the same. So what are they? They're solid, dependable, little bit of ginger in there, little bit of interest.
Little bit of ginger in there.
That's and you know what you're getting with a piece of Grasmere gingerbread, and that's what I would like to be.
A fantastic answer, well thought through, with context, a story to it. Thank you very much. That's going to be a tough act to follow, because I'm anticipating lots of other people's answers will just be, I think I'd be a chocolate digestive because I'm everyone's favourite. Okay, thanks for that. So lastly, John, the last question that I can ask you today. The Quadcast is something that we've been working on kind of on and off for the last 6 months or so. And we finally got our time to get into doing it. Are you excited?
Oh, I am so excited. I am such a big consumer of podcasts. I've been listening to podcasts since, I think before they were called podcasts. It goes way back when. Oh, my goodness. I must have listened to, I was going to say thousands of episodes, but I think tens of thousands of podcast episodes. I listen to them at night time, in the middle of the night, when I'm driving, for entertainment, in the garden. I love podcasts. It's a wonderful way of consuming content, whether that's on one of my hobbies or whether it's to do with digital marketing, just for fun. No matter what, I listen to podcasts. So to be on this side of the microphone is weird in the extreme.
Yeah.
But no, I'm enjoying this process. I'm loving the idea. I'm looking forward to what my colleagues are going to be saying. I'll be listening avidly to them.
Yeah.
And so no, I'm well excited about this. And certainly the trials you've done with the microphones we use and the kit we've put together, the quality seems really good. And I would like to say pleasantly surprised, but why would I be surprised? All the stuff that you do is good.
Thank you very much. It's at least passable. So, well, John, that wraps us up for this today. Thank you so much again for joining us. This has been absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to have you back on again for whatever that might look like. So thank you for your time, and it's very much appreciated.
Fantastic, Lewis. Thank you very
Brilliant.
much.
Thank you very much. And thanks so much for listening, everybody. Keep an eye out for all of our Meet the Team episodes. We're not sure what we're going to be calling them yet, but they'll be out soon. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.